What a great room. I am so honored to be here today amongst so many amazing women, and in particular to introduce you to this year's Wise Woman of the Year recipient, Kate Johnson. You know, Kate and I are close to the same age. I'm a little older than her, hence the glasses. And we have grown in our careers at about the same frequency, pace, and once, even at the same company. Kate and I started as peers at Visa, and then she became my manager. For those of you who have not yet experienced what it's like to work with or for an elite level athlete, an Olympian no less, let me just tell you, I'm still recovering. I take a lot of pride in my own work ethic, yes, but Kate, oh boy. She has a focus, a competitive spirit, and a will to win all the time. And that takes a certain level of constant energy to keep up with. It feels like a workout when you work a muscle to fatigue, and then your trainer says, okay, one more set. Because of how long Kate and I have known each other, it is inevitable that when I meet someone in the industry and or see someone new after a very long time, the question that always comes up is, oh wow, you know Kate Johnson? At which point I usually smile at her celebrity status and inwardly laugh at what her reaction would be if she was standing next to me. And finally, when I respond in the affirmative, there are times, yes, that I feel like I'm Kate's agent, publicist, and don't think any different, even her bodyguard at times. And I don't mind these roles at all. It makes me really happy to be that person for her. But the roles that I prefer and that we find ourselves in more and more often with each other are mentor, advisor, ally, life and parent coach, confidant, friend, and sister. Let me be clear, in this room where I think honesty just goes a long way, Kate and I were not always like this. I think it's important in this type of room and in this type of setting, full of inspiring and aspiring women, for me to be candid with all of you as we try to figure out this thing called life. There was a time in our lives where Kate and I had a very tough and tenuous relationship. There were times that we were at odds with each other, each of us trying to climb our own ladders and jockey for position. I am sure that many of you in the audience have gone through this yourselves with men and women alike. And I know I'm not proud of myself when I think about how this feeling and behavior is so counterintuitive to the support we need to provide each other in order to truly change this industry. But I also think that the competition between Kate and me was healthy. We pushed each other, and I believe because of that time in our lives, we each became better, technically better, more confident, louder in what we felt and believed, and more driven. In this regard, my belief is that you can be both supportive and competitive with each other. It is not an either-or decision. I'm so thankful for the experience I had with Kate, because it not only helped me in my own career, we found our way back to each other and developed a more open, honest, and raw relationship that continues to serve each of us today. For those of you who have spent time with Kate, there are so many words that come to mind in your interaction with her. Grinder, persistent, winner. I will also add mom, cancer survivor, visionary, and dreamer. She is steadfastly committed to empowering and raising women in a way that I am just in awe of. She has been through things in her life that I can never imagine going through, and she's come out on top. Jessica Berman and I were chatting yesterday, and in that conversation, she said of Kate, she has power through her vulnerability. So much of what all of us, including me, are experiencing and benefiting from today and in the future are the result of Kate's work and work ethic. We are and will continue to be better because of her, and I am both proud and honored humbled to honor her here today. And with that, let's take a look at her video.
We just moved to Portland, Oregon, and we were driving over the Willamette River, and I saw some rowing shells on the water. We drove down to the boathouse, and this coach gave me a quick lesson and was like, you know what? I think you're gonna be great at this. And that started this complete love of rowing. I was a world champion in 2002 and then an Olympic silver medalist in 2004. You get to the Olympics and you receive your medal and then it's over and you're left trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I do with the rest of my life? I realized there was this whole mega business around the Olympics that when you're an athlete, you don't even know exists. That really became an awesome transitional avenue into the world of sports marketing for me. I definitely had reached a moment in my career where I was just ready to grow again, ready to learn. And it's been the hardest job I've ever had, hands down.
She started at IMG, then she went to Visa. So Google is now her latest platform to drive change and come up with ideas to say, hey, we need to demand more equity on the media side.
Google search is powered by the content that fills the internet, and there wasn't enough women's content to even really spend against, to run campaigns. We've added more than 300 hours of women's sports content into the system that didn't exist before.
Her whole platform is really about elevating women, and the great part about what she's building at Google with their women's sports platform is that she's laser focused on results.
The work that's been done over the last few years to make sure that when people put in searches for top footballers, they're served up Christine St. Clair as quickly as they're served up Messi. That you shouldn't have to always qualify with a gender.
Kate took the power of Google, one of the biggest brands in the world, and pointed it towards a specific sector. That moves mountains, that changes the world. Here's someone that has been making a massive difference, but in parallel, she's been battling cancer.
In 2021, I went through stage 3 breast cancer, and I used all the same tools that I learned as an athlete and that I've deployed in my career to help me get through one of the hardest health journeys I've been on.
Just the bravery she showed throughout that entire fight, to handle that situation the way she did, it was just so admirable.
I really believe that organizations like WWOY, where you can see what you want to become, is so important. Just like in my mission at Google to create more content for young girls and women to see themselves maybe being a Caitlin Clark one day, or maybe being a Jessie Diggins, to allow younger women on their professional journey to create a vision for themselves of where they want to get to.
I can't think of anyone who's more deserving than Kate Johnson to be the WWOY's Woman of the Year. She's a role model for so many of us in the industry.
One of my favorite quotes is by Gandhi, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." And that's Kate Johnson in a nutshell.
At every stage of her career, she's been a leader. Not to mention she's a great mom who prioritizes being a mom, which isn't easy.
It is really important for my boys to see their mom working hard. Having a strong female in their life means that they're going to be a better partner to whatever partner they have in life that also wants to pursue her goals.
Please join me in welcoming 2024 Wise Woman of the Year, my sister and my hero, Kate Johnson.
That is not fair. Woo, to go through all of that before you even get up to do your own speech. My goodness, Zaylene. So, as you heard in our little story, we have come out the backside of really what it is to, come up in your career alongside someone. And so to have Zaylene here today introducing me, means the world. Thank you, Wise. Thank you, Zaylene. Thank you to my incredible table of humans that are here. Thank you to the women in this room who have inspired me throughout my career. I'm going to tell you a story today about the sheroes that have inspired me. What is so surreal, I literally threw my speech out the window when I was up there taking a photograph with the wise legends that have come before me. And I realized, oh my gosh, I am stepping into a place where these women who I have known my entire career and looked up to are now my peers, my colleagues. Together, we are the change makers of this industry, of this business. I am a product of Title IX. As you saw, I grew up in Portland. I was a swimmer, We moved to Portland when I was a freshman in high school, which was Nike's backyard. And Nike ran this campaign in the 90s called If You Let Me Play. And If You Let Me Play was targeted at young girls. It was targeted at them to tell them that if you stay in sport, and I was 13 when I started rowing, if you stay in sport, if you can keep going, you are going to be more likely to make it in your career. You're going to be less likely to be in an abusive relationship. The one quote I debunked was, you're less likely to get breast cancer if you stay in sports. But there were all these things that kind of hit me square between the eyes as a young 13-year-old girl who was just building her vision of falling in love with the sport, that within 2 weeks of doing it, I had decided and written in black permanent ink, I will go to the Olympics one day. So to have been seen was a moment where I reflect back on that and I think that's when I started to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. But first I had to get to the games. And as you also heard, that transition out of the Olympics is incredibly challenging. I always brace myself. I have an avid Olympic fan at my table and my friend Beth. I love watching the Olympics. It is magical. When people ask me, what do you remember? It's the journey. It's the blood, sweat, and tears. It was what was happening when no one was watching. It actually isn't the podium. If anything, the moment I stepped off that podium, the question of what do I want to do with this life? What do I want to do next? Hit me like a ton of bricks. The male rowers, had Wall Street waiting for them. Job offers primed, ready to go. There were not a lot of women who had left the rowing career and then stepped into, a career that I could really emulate. There were a few, but there were not many, and there certainly were not, kind of job offers waiting. And so when I began at IMG, I had a boss named Doug Perney, and he is here today. And the first thing he told me as I started as the office girl, I was literally his executive assistant, and he said, your job is to work your way out of a job in 6 months. If you're still working for me in 6 months, we will have not done the job you've come here to do. And so I learned the first lesson of, asking questions, getting yourself into brainstorms. And as I tell you the stories of how connected my life is to so many of the women in this room, one of the first heroes in this brainstorm that I sat in was Mary Scott. Mary Scott is a WWOY honoree from last year, and Mary was leading a campaign for the Johnson & Johnson Olympics. She was the first role model that I had in this sports industry now, where I could kind of mark the path of where I wanted to go. Then I met Laura Gentili. Laura Gentili created ESPNW, went on to become the CMO of ESPN. These women who are now my friends were my heroes. I started to kind of map my path. Angela Ruggiero and I were standing in line at the Women's Sports Foundation annual salute of athletes, and we turned to each other. This is the first time we met. What are you going to do with this one precious life? What are you going to do when this is over? And so these ideas of kind of who am I going to become, just like I had envisioned for myself as an Olympian, translated into the beginning of this career journey that I was on. And I literally looked at the Hillary Mandel's at IMG. I watched the Carol Stiffs who were charging at ESPN, and I started to build the model for what I wanted to be. And I've done it. I'm at Google now, and my commitment is to absolutely make sure that I do what Nike did for me, that I mark some young girl who is out there who's thinking about not staying in sport, and I remind her, because I am putting women in TV, women's sports, front and center with Jess Berman on our new NWSL deal. I'm making sure that she can see herself. Because you guys, as fast as women's sports is growing right now, girls are still dropping out of sport at a faster rate than they were before Title IX. So the work here is not done, right? And I'm asking anyone who has control of their marketing dollars to put it into the place where we can keep growing these young girls and women. I want to thank my husband for being an amazing partner. It's Jason's first time to New York City. We've been through a lot in the last few years. And I think it's an interesting thing. I'll just share this with some of the young women, when you're building your career, you're wondering, who am I going to meet? Who is this person that's going to match me? A lot of guys couldn't keep up. And I found him. I found him later, and I'm so grateful to share this with him here today. Thank you, Kathy, for this honor. Thank you, Wise, for this honor. Thank you, every woman who has ever inspired me to keep going and to keep pushing. I cannot believe I'm pinching myself that I now get to join you at the table and really have influence with all of you. Everybody has a role to influence the world as they want to see it, and this room is stacked. So let's keep going. Thank you so much.